Hey y'all, it's your favorite Southern sweetheart, NSC Winn Dixie, creator of Winn Dixie Motorcycle Entertainment and Apparel. For tonight's episode of Dating and Motorcycle Clubs, we're going to be joined by the very stunning, state line crossing Remy. Remy is a biker and she has been in a couple of clubs. She's going to be discussing with us what it's like to be a club hopper. I want to thank you all for joining. We're going to hop right into it. Okay, y'all. Remy should be waiting for our call.
Hello.
Hello. Hi, Remy. How are you?
I'm doing good. How are you?
I am doing well. All right, Remy, I'm going to ask you what I ask all of my guests when they do my show. When did you first fall in love with motorcycle culture?
Well, that's funny that you asked that because it's actually the first time I fell off of a bike.
Oh, wow.
And I didn't kill myself. I didn't die. You know, I got back up. I was muddy. I slipped in the mud. When I was riding back home from that incident, I realized, you know what, this is all right. I like this. Okay, so let me back up a little bit.
Okay.
So I bought myself this bike. I was a teacher. We had a snow day here in Nashville. And so I was bored at home and I said, well, I want a bike. No one in my family rides. So I just drove over to the Harley dealership, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so by the end of the day, I had me a Sportster 883, my first bike, Harley Davidson. I didn't even know how to ride it. You hear me? I had to call a friend to come to the dealership to ride it to my house and park it for me. Now, I had stand up for the class, but it was 30 days away.
Yeah.
Me being who I am and knowing how to ride a stick shift because I had a Mustang,
Mm-hmm.
I said, you know what? I'm going to teach myself how to ride. So I started riding up and down my block. And then when I got a little bit comfortable with that, I tried to take it around to the store. And that's when I realized I didn't know how to turn the bike. I was trying to turn it like a bicycle.
Yeah.
And I slid all into the mud. You know, flipped everywhere. Mud was everywhere
Wow.
all over me. So, yeah, I just picked the bike back up. I have no idea where the strength came from.
That's crazy.
Like I said, I think it was the embarrassment. I didn't want nobody to come around the corner and see me down there like that. So I just got the bike up, dust myself off, and rode home. You hear me?
I hear you. That's amazing. That is amazing. And so from that point on, you were hooked, right?
I was hooked.
All right. So the topic of today's discussion is dating in motorcycle clubs. I'm a club hopper. So I was telling the Rebels that you had been in a couple of clubs. You've been in, I know, Buffalo Soldiers, Independent Dimes MC, and Sundance Riders.
That's correct.
All right, so what we're going to do is I'm going to let you tell us your history in your words. We're going to start with why you first chose Buffalo Soldiers and, you know, the impact that made, and then you can progress to your next two clubs. And I'll hop in.
Okay, cool. Well, Buffalo Soldiers, I'm a United States Army veteran, combat veteran. I served in Afghanistan, and the Buffalo Soldiers have a rich history from the 9th and 10th Cavalry.
Mm-hmm.
And so I felt a connection there just right away. I felt the connection. And I was just riding around Nashville by myself. I would go to work, go home, go to the store. I was just riding around as an independent. I didn't know that that's what you called yourself when you wasn't in a club.
Yeah.
But that's what I was doing. And then the Buffalo Soldiers, I met one of my good friends. She told me she was in the club, and she brought me out to some of the meetings. I went to some of the charity events with them, and I saw how they served the community. How it was a brotherhood and a sisterhood.
Mm-hmm.
They taught me how to probate. It wasn't a thing for me when it was, go wash my bike or go over there and wash that bike or go pick that trash up or I need you to do this, I need you to do that. As a probate, I understood that you had to put in work, in order to value and cherish your organization.
Absolutely.
And so Buffalo Soldiers showed me all of it. They showed me how to cross country, ride cross country, how to have that. They built my stamina up for cross country riding. And, that was my first encounter with brotherhood and sisterhood nationally, every time we went to a different brother or sister event, it was always love. It was always you hug everybody, you greet everybody, and I'm a mingler, so I always want to say, hey, I'm Remy, how are you? Hey, I'm from Nashville, you know what I mean? So Buffalo Soldiers, that's what they showed me, They introduced me to the riding game and basically tried to get my weight up. That first bike I had, they told me that wasn't going to get it. While we was riding, I would be the one that had us keep stopping for gas.
Right.
So, it was a little intimidation, but I said, okay, well, let me upgrade, and then I went and got me a Dyna Super Glide, and then I had a Road King. So I was like, just trying to keep up.
Yeah.
Because I knew, east to the East Coast to the West Coast, North to the South, I needed to ride with these guys.
And let me just say this about Buffalo Soldiers. Buffalo Soldiers is an amazing organization. I'm going to give a huge shout out to them. How old were you when you joined Buffalo Soldiers, Remy?
I was 33 years old.
Okay, 33. All right, so eventually you made the decision to leave that club and go venture to another club. What was the motivation behind that? You can explain it better.
Okay. Well, it wasn't that I wanted to leave.
Okay.
To be honest, it was some personal issues that I was going through, and the code of conduct with the Buffalo Soldiers, because they are such a historic and national organization, you can't affiliate if your code of conduct is not up to par. And so in my personal affairs, there was a conduct that was unbecoming, and I was suspended with the possibility of appealing to the national level in order to come back. And at that time, I had recently went down on a bad accident, and where I broke my orbital socket on my eye and had stitches and everything. I went down to Memphis visiting the Memphis Buffalo Soldiers. And, so with that, with the suspension, with the personal issues, I decided not to appeal and just to continue to ride my motorcycle.
Yeah.
Well, a good friend of mine out of St. Louis, she had another good friend who used to be a Sundance rider. She told him, well, I got this good homegirl down in Nashville. She needs a good place to call home. So that led to me getting a phone call from then the president of the Nashville Sundance Riders here in 2015. We met at my office. I have a nonprofit office. I had a headquarters in North Nashville. We met at my office, and I agreed to probate. I wore probate colors now because the Buffalo Soldiers told me or showed me what it meant to probate. I was ready for the challenge. So, and actually, it was two different worlds. Buffalo Soldiers and coming onto the set, it was almost like a scary experience because I was new. I knew how to ride, but I didn't know about the set.
The politics and all of the nuances of being an MC. It's so different, right?
Exactly, and having dominance and things like that. I didn't know anything about that. So so when I agreed to probate for Sundance Riders, I didn't know that they were on something called a blacklist. That meant that you cannot wear your colors until you did the necessary things that you needed to do to get the board of the set to recognize your club. Well, so me wearing my probie colors and running into Dominance, who was telling me, you need to take those colors off. Again, scary situation for me.
Absolutely.
And I was like, I'm by myself. It was just me and the president at that time. And he's a much older guy. He wasn't out like that. I was the one out here. So I said, well, if you want me to wear these colors, we need to do whatever we need to do to get off of this thing called this blacklist.
Right.
And so I did the homework. We found out what we needed to do. We made the connections, and we did that. And I wore my rags proudly here in Nashville, Tennessee. Now, I ended up leaving Sundance Riders at that time due to irreconcilable differences.
Okay.
Okay.
At Buffalo Soldiers, right? They taught you the riding aspect of it.
Yeah.
And
yes.
you learned how to cross state lines, and you learned how to do these distant rides, and what it took mentally and physically from you to be a biker, you know, putting miles on your bike, traveling
Absolutely.
across the country. So you learn the basics of riding as a new
Absolutely.
rider. Then you joined Sundance for family, and you started getting the set of being in a motorcycle club, like being on the motorcycle set. And not only did you benefit from being with Sundance by learning the motorcycle set, Sundance as an organization benefited from having you, because you kind of pushed them into getting themselves off the blacklist.
Correct.
All right, so we were at a situation where you were having some differences with Sundance. You can pick up from there.
Absolutely. Okay, and then I was done. I thought I was going to be done with the club at that time and just continue to ride my motorcycle. But a club here, the Independent Dimes Motorcycle Club, is an all-female club, great organization. Shout out to the Independent Dimes.
Shout out to the Dimes.
Yes, I wanted to do something different. Buffalo Soldiers and Sundance Riders are both co-ed organizations.
Mm-hmm.
Independent Dimes is all female.
Mm-hmm.
So they needed another strong lady on the team. They only had 4 members at the time. They reached out to me. They knew that I rode. They needed a strong leader, a strong lady on the team. I told them I was up for the challenge. I became an officer, the secretary of the club, after I probated and got in my mouth and did my charity with them and got to know the girl, you know, and I did my best to bring structure to our meetings.
Mm-hmm.
And make sure we were organized. You know, I did what I thought that I could do and brought what I knew and all of my knowledge from me having a nonprofit to the organization.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
All right, so you cut ties with Independent Dimes and became an indie writer for a little bit, but I know you went back to Sundance. And I'm going to tell you all, Rebels, a little bit about my history with Remy. I met Remy on her second, or like close to your second. I think it was like right around the time you were like, you put on your independent patch, but you had rejoined the organization Sundance briefly, and we'll talk about that in a minute. But I want this to be known about Remy. We are talking about her being a club hopper, and a club hopper can have a negative connotation to it. But Remy is an amazing person, first of all, and she has a way of fixing things. She's a fixer. So she is a gem to any organization that she becomes a part of. And so what she's getting ready to discuss with you all, and I think it's so valuable because it was one of the things that attracted me to her, to have her help me with Winn Dixie, because she actually helped me last summer with my business and the structure of my business. Sundance, after having differences with Sundance, they invited her back to the organization. Tell us about that, Remy.
Okay, yeah, I went back to Sundance.
Mm-hmm.
Here in Nashville, they had lost all of their members except for 3 members.
Mm-hmm.
And so they reached out to me again. They told me the structure was a little bit better. We will, if I came in and do what I do, they would be appreciative. So that's what I did. I put my rags back on, and I dropped the past and left the past in the past, and we built a team, a new team, and then we decided that we wanted a clubhouse You know, we want to jump out there and have somewhere, a place that we can call home.
Mm-hmm.
You know, Nashville never had a clubhouse for Sundance riders. You know, they have a clubhouse down in Starkville, Mississippi,
Mm-hmm.
where they originated from, but they don't have one here. Okay, so I thought it was a good look, and so I helped build it. I took a hammer and knocked down walls, and we put in furniture. I painted. We did everything in there we needed to do to get it up and running for the grand opening.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's when you maybe have heard about me, because they was like, you know, who is Remy? Or, you know.
Yeah, I heard about you. Everybody's like, you know, I basically know everybody. I'd heard of Remy, but when there's somebody that I need to know, I'm definitely going to hear about it. So multiple occasions, everybody's like, do you know Remy? You got to meet Remy. You know, you got to meet Remy. She's doing these amazing things on the motorcycle set. And then my sister, my blood sister, Flawless, was like, you know, Remy, marketing wise, is genius. She's really done an amazing job with Sundance and just marketing their organization and getting them, you know, a name in Nashville. And so I mean, I had to meet Remy. I had to meet this Remy, and I'm so glad that I did. But yeah, that's when I met her. And so she's done some amazing things. Those are the 3 organizations that she's been a part of. Remy, do you think that you will stay indie or what?
Well, right now I'm enjoying my love of riding and meeting people, and you know, not having commitments.
Mm-hmm.
And you know, it's less stress for me. You know, I suffer from PTSD from my combat in the military, and how I deal with it is I get on my motorcycle and I ride. You know, people always think, oh, Remy, she be riding from state to state. You never know where you're going to find Remy, but usually that's Remy out there getting her solitude, getting my mind right.
Your therapy,
you know?
Yeah.
Yes, that's my therapy. So I am enjoying that right now. You know, I've joined 3 committees just so I can ride my motorcycle and have a reason to ride and meet new people and network.
Well, I want to thank you for your military service. Absolutely. Thanks for serving this country. Let's talk about what you got going on. Tell us a little bit about it. I know you got some rides coming up. You're on the board for a couple of rides, and then we'll talk about your nonprofit as well. I want to put that out there. Tell us about what you got going on in 2020, Remy.
Okay, in 2020, I am introducing, along with the founder, Tennessee Whiskey, the inaugural 2020 Tennessee all-female ride. You know, this is the first time the state of Tennessee has put on an all-female ride. I'm excited to be a part of that team. Shout out to the team, Chick Moscato, Miss Sugar the Rebel. But this year's theme for the Tennessee all-female ride is education.
Okay.
And a portion of the proceeds will go towards my local nonprofit, the Sankofa Achievement Center.
Okay.
Where our motto is, it takes a village to raise a child.
And it definitely does. And like, major shout out to Chick Moscato. Y'all know Chick. Chick's done this show before. She is the mama of the MC set in Middle Tennessee for sure. All right. So you got that ride. This is a big one for Tennessee. I've seen it advertised. What are the dates for that ride, Remy?
The dates are June 5th through the 7th.
June 5th through the 7th.
We're going to be at Appleton, Harley, in Clarksville, Tennessee. And we're going to hit the pavement as ladies, for ladies, by ladies.
Well, that's amazing. Okay, so you got another ride.
Then I am also committee member for the St. Louis Ride for Hope. So it's the Ride for Hope 2020 all-female ride, St. Louis, Missouri, hosted by the Ride for Hope Foundation, St. Louis. Shout out to the R4H team. And that ride is August 15th.
Okay, and so then you are a part of the Mid-State all-female ride that takes place in Memphis, Tennessee. What are the dates for that?
All-female cancer ride. September 11th through the 13th in Memphis, Tennessee.
All right, and so tell us a little bit about your nonprofit, Remy.
Okay, well, I'm currently working on my dissertation in educational leadership, so I'll be Dr. Jones officially soon. But I was teaching for about 13 years, and like I said, my mental illness that I deal with, my PTSD, and the way the politics is set up in the school, and me trying to be a social justice advocate, and me trying to mentor students and reform the education system it was not conducive with my mental and in the classroom.
Okay.
So I resigned from teaching after 13 years, and I started a 501c3 nonprofit organization that empowers youth to study and realize that they can reach for the stars. You know, it doesn't matter what conditions or what criteria they come from, they can have social excellence. And so I run a summer camp, and it's called Camp Imani, Camp Faith. And I do after-school programs as well throughout the year. And, you know, we are encouraging entrepreneurship. We're encouraging the students to pursue higher education. During the summer camps, I take them on college tours. I have speakers coming from the set, different leaders, different business owners come in and speak to the students. You know, I rent out the conference room at the local library, and I teach reading, writing, and math skills over the summer so they can be prepared when they go back to school for the new year. You know, because our students tend to lose things over summer if they're not continually reading and being active.
Absolutely.
Okay, and so because of my love for riding, I incorporated a charity ride. I said, well, I ride all the time. Why not do a charity ride as a fundraiser for my camp? You know, instead of just frying fish sandwiches, then maybe I can have some people come out that supports the youth and support me. And so this is going to be my third annual Sankofa Charity Ride. It's going to be March 14th.
March 14th, Sankofa Charity Ride, Nashville, Tennessee, right?
Nashville, Tennessee, yep. Kickstands up at 10 a.m., leaving from the Best of Both Worlds Clubhouse.
Okay. That's amazing.
Yep,
you've got your plate full, for sure.
Yes.
I'm just really excited to watch you in 2020. The spotlight is on you. So continue to do great things, Remy. You know, I can't say enough great things about you. Before you get out of here, is there anybody you would like to shout out? We'll throw it up on the screen.
Absolutely. I would like to shout out Portia Taylor and the entire BGR family. I would like to shout out, like I said, the Tennessee All-Female Ride Committee, the Ride for Hope Committee, Missouri, the Mid-South Committee. I'm looking forward to one day this year getting out to the Bessie Stringfield Ride. I've never done that before. I haven't been down to Jacksonville, Florida, messed down there with Lil Tigger, Jen Brew. So I'm looking forward to getting out, mingling, riding my motorcycle, and I'm just... You'll see me. You'll see me soon.
Yeah, I'll definitely see you soon. You going to Block Burners?
Block Burners, yeah. I'm going to Block Burners as well.
Okay, so I'll definitely see you down there. And sure we'll run into each other a whole bunch. I want to thank you for doing this show, Remy. I really appreciate it. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Have a wonderful night.
You too.
All right, bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Okay, guys. All right, so another wonderful show, Dating in Motorcycle Clubs. I'm a club hopper. My takeaway from that episode and Remy, there's a negative connotation behind being in multiple clubs. I've talked about it. I mean, you hear it if you're on the set. But sometimes, just sometimes, changing your situation is beneficial for both the club that you're in and for yourself, and those moves are necessary. And that's my takeaway from Remy and her being in multiple organizations. She always found value in the organizations that she was in, and she always added value to the organizations that she was a part of. and she had nothing but positive things to say about each one of those organizations. And I'm so excited that she did the show. I'm so excited to talk about this topic. I feel like this is a hot topic to discuss. I think it's important to know the different reasons people move how they move, but they're able to maintain leadership and independence all in the same lifetime. All right, so I'm gonna get up out of here. I really appreciate you all joining every Thursday. I'm gonna wrap it up. And as I wrap it up, I want to encourage you all to practice safe sex, and not only practice safe sex, but practice communication, practice respect, practice falling in love, practice dating, practice all the things that make love what it is. All right, so I want to wish you all the sweetest of the dreams. Good night.